I really appreciate every single person that's coming on to watch it tonight. And we're going to be having some fun. We're going to be talking about some red teaming, how to get into red teaming, what kind of fun tools you can use. And my guest tonight is a red teamer. So he has hands-on experience with all these fun tools. You've probably seen him in the community and doing fun, super fun stuff, right? Like some stuff, Hackle Manitos, with these little things. And, you can hit him up for stickers. He can get you hooked up. But I want to bring him in. His name is Robert, and let's have some fun. What's up, Rob?
Hey, Pat. Good evening. Thanks so much for having me. How you doing?
Good. Likewise, man. This is going to be super fun. I was looking forward to this for over a month. So this is super blessed to have you on, and let's shoot the stuff about. So now we pretty much ask us anything or ask you anything about red teaming, how to get into red teaming, and some fun stuff to even learn how to get into it, right? Because there is a difference, right, between red teaming and penetration testing. And I guess we can break down what are the differences. But before we get into that, right, if you want to do a little brief introduction, introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and let's go for it.
Fair enough. So, it was very nice how you reached out organically in social media. I had been seeing your content and seeing you around in community for many years at this point. And to be fair, I'm a team. I'm not on my own, right? I'm with Hacker Hermanos, which is my brother Rafael Pimentel and my partner Caitlin Farley, who is specialized in cloud. My brother specialized in penetration testing. And like you very well said, I'm focused at the moment professionally in a red team position. I work as a lead of offensive security for a insurance company. And my specialization within the red team space, because believe it or not, there's many things you can focus on within that, is infrastructure. I automate all things. I build, and my career started more in the cloud space and network space, so network architecture. I know we have that in common. We've been speaking about that. I did all the stuff with CVT Nuggets, get my Cisco certifications back in the day, and so has Caitlin, our hacker hermana. Now, the one thing I don't think I've shown you, Pat. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. We got some new stickers now with a QR. And there's this other
sick.
one holographic with the same background that I got. So I'm going to hook you up with these. So just
Nice.
hit me up on LinkedIn. And to you, I got your stuff already. But anybody that wants a sticker, I'll send them out. We're sending these out as long as my current salary can support it. So, take advantage of that. And thanks so much for the shirt, Pat. I love it. I'm going to be wearing it, on my workouts. Let's see if we can start some trend or something in community. Be like, this is my workout for the day, and we can get people motivated and excited, because this is a demanding career. I know you work a lot. We've talked a lot about work ethic and how this is a demanding field, right? Like it's sometimes it's hard to disconnect, but keeping healthy is very important, because I don't know you, man, but after spending all day in the chair, my back hurts quite a lot. And hopefully with this shirt, I'll be the coolest InfoSec guy at the gym.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what I tell friends, even family. Like, it may not be only with this community in InfoSec or cybersecurity. I think in general, right? Like, I have friends that work in marketing that sit down all day. Maybe they work in different IT aspects of the field. Just having that mental space and having the time for yourself for an hour and a half, or whatever it is, just to get out of the house, go to the gym. And that movement, Get Jacked or Get Hacked, was about just, I go to the gym. I play hockey. I enjoy the outdoorsy stuff. I'm not your typical nerd that likes to sit on a computer and just play on my computer. So I came up with that slogan because I'm like, okay, like, if you don't go out and move your body and just be healthy, as we get older, we're going to be susceptible to diseases. So those diseases is you getting hacked. God forbid you get cancer, diabetes, et cetera, whatever. The list goes on. So be proactive, be healthy. And that's the whole movement of Get Jacked or Get Hacked, because you don't want to get hacked, right? In the real hacking world, or God forbid your body getting hacked. So that's what that was all about.
No, I love it, Pat. And I think you came about a very creative way to do it, right? Because obviously, anybody that works in infosec knows there's a technical aspect of this, right? But it's almost poetical how you're putting it, get hacked, right? And if I can add a comment to that too, is um, I I grew up working out, being involved in martial arts, uh, all sorts of sports and whatnot, right? So I've been quite active, right, in my development. But as I got into the career goals and life ambition and wanting to make something of myself and get somewhere in life type of thing,
Hmm.
I studied a lot, spent a lot of time kind of denying myself and my own health, so to speak, right?
Hmm.
And a pivotal moment has been the last 2 3 years, man, where I know you can tell I'm not a super older guy or something, right? I don't have kids or anything, but I started feeling very differently than when I was growing up.
Hmm.
Like, why am I tired if I haven't done anything but being in a chair all day, right? And
Yep.
that's also not ideal. Like, what's the point of achieving your career goals or anything if you're really not going to even be able to enjoy it because you're just grinding yourself to death every day, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, because on the inside, you may look good on the outside. You may be a flaquito, a skinny guy, but you're deteriorating inside because, you know, and it happens. It happens a lot. Like people think because you're skinny, you look fit. God only knows what's going on the inside, right? Even in the brain, right? The mental state. Like it's not only about your physical stuff; it's about the mental capacity as well, the psychological aspect, because we can go and like it's not only about work. Like I was just like staying in the house or whatever. Like years ago, I went through a little pickle in my life. Not it was a long time ago, 15 years ago, and it was just like over and over and over and over again. And I needed to get out of that. So what I went to start doing is fighting, and we talked about that. And that was my escape back home in New York. Like I enjoyed fighting, and fighting really helped me escape or release some of that, whatever you want to call it, build up anger or whatever. Like I really enjoyed that, and that fulfilled something, you know. And it's not fighting, just go and pick on people, it's like a group of whatever. It's like more like the Fight Club. We just go into a backyard, like, and we just fight each other, beat each other up. And now I just arm wrestle, right? I don't like to get punched in the head anymore and come out, looking like a swollen head. But yeah, like mental health is super, super critical. And however you escape that, right? If you go play basketball, play soccer, play hockey, go to the gym or whatever you want to do, do it, because you don't want, yourself to start depleting.
I think you was into soccer too, right, Pat?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
told you I grew up in Madrid and stuff, and that's pretty much what all kids do. It's just kick a ball around and whatnot. I think in the U.S. you folks grew up doing American football, right?
I never really watched American football. Growing up in New York, like, yeah, my family likes the Giants, but I never grew up playing, even in the streets, like two-hand touch or like anything like growing up back home. Like I grew up playing hockey. So, street hockey, like I played some more ice when I came down to Florida. But yeah, like that's more of my thing. And we played manhunt, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. I never played American football.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Do you have any siblings, Pat?
Yeah, I have a little brother. He's not little,
Okay.
but he's third. He's younger than me. My younger brother. I always say my little brother. My younger brother. Yeah, I do have a younger brother.
Similar feeling here. I have two brothers, but the one is like six something, and it's I think of him as my little brother, but it's really not. I have to like look up.
Yeah, I think Johnny and I, my brother and I, are about the same height. I think I'm a little taller, but he looks like tall because he's really skinny, so he looks lanky. But like when you see me, me next to him, you can see I have about an inch and a half on him.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Wes, Manhunt. So Manhunt was like it was is a game. I don't know if they play. I never heard of people playing it down here, but like in New York, you have a group of friends, and like maybe if you have 10, 15 kids, 7, 8 people aside, and like your team will be like on a stoop or like stairs. I don't know. We call them stoops in front of our house. We just our gang or whatever, 8 people, 7 people will be, and then we count to like 100 or whatever, 50, and the other people go hide, and you have like a 4 or 5 block radius back home, and you just go hide, and then we go on the hunts. And so the point of the game is they have to get back to base. Base is our stoop. So if they get back to base without getting touched or without getting tagged, then they made it home. They made it to base. So, and all of them have to get to base. And if one gets tagged, you're done. You lose.
What does the tagging consist of? Do you punch them when you find them, or it's just racing back?
No, it's actually just, just obviously some, because you're running, right? You're running pretty hard and I'm chasing you. So, there has been times like if you just tag or push, they fall, you know what I mean? But that's not the intention. You're not going to, intentionally try to hurt them. It's just like tag. And unless like you corner someone, you're not going to try to duke them or whatever, if you have if I found you and you're pretty much cornered, let me just tag you, because there's no point of running. But yeah, it's a fun game. It's fun. Like growing up, it was so much fun. It's like hide and seek. Yeah. It's like hide and seek.
Oh, hey, West. Nice to see you here too. I had some people in the comments. I hadn't even realized we had comments going on until now.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the comments on the side. Usually, we can, if it's more of a question, we can put it up on the screen. But great exercise and yeah.
So physical. Let me ask the folks that are watching. How many of you are in cyber or into cyber? I assume most, given that we're watching a InfoSec Pat, right? But is there anyone else that's in other areas of IT, like cloud, networking, programming?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. And I guess that can really mesh into, how we can get into it, right? Like you and I came from similar background, cloud computing, routing, switching, firewalls, VMware and all that stuff. And then we led into cyber, all of the above. I'm a cybersecurity recruiter. Cool. That's awesome.
So I can speak to my experience, Pat. Like, couple sayings there. I don't even know if they're applicable, but all roads lead to Rome, or the other one, there's many ways to skin a cat, right?
Yeah.
What happened in my journey, and we got to speak about this a little bit in private when we originally met and whatnot, was that, and I'll start also with what led me here personality wise, but in any way I don't think that you need to have a certain personality to do anything in life. I think that we're all equally capable of achieving whatever we set our mind and effort to. So I like to start with that because, as I'm sure Pat, you've encountered this, and folks in our audience might be aware, there's a lot of gatekeeping. I think that in any aspect of life, humans like to feel the sense of exclusivity, like I belong to something that you can't belong to. Mm-hmm. I, frankly, speaking for myself, despise that feeling. Mm-hmm. Despise that greatly. I don't like folks that look down on others. I don't like folks that make others feel excluded. I don't like when people make me feel excluded, and I try to treat others in a completely opposite way than that. And that's kind of the mission with the whole Hacker Hermanos and why we're doing this. Now, I know I'm giving you a very long-winded way to get into the whole InfoSec thing, but growing up, I feel I cannot understate, Pat, how grateful I feel to God, to my family, for me not having gotten into a series of troubles because of bad decisions that wouldn't have allowed me to do what I do today. Okay? Mm-hmm. And here's what I mean by that. I think I might have told you about this when we originally met, Pat. When I was about 5th grade or 6th grade, it was very early on. I don't think I was a full-blown teenager yet. I was always like opening my mom's computer, getting viruses in them. Like I remember this one virus that would put a dog that pull up pop-ups of obscene things, and I'm not going to get into the details, and casino ads, okay? And this is just like on websites like miniclip.com, minigames.com, type of things like that, right? Like when I was like really young. And as I continued like browsing the wonderful internet of the late 90s and early 2000s, I encountered forums that were talking about how to do things that things are not supposed to do. And I know I said that very broadly, very generically, but here's what I mean. I had this cell phone. This was back in the day when kids were sharing MP3s at school, like the days of LimeWire, Aries, those type of programs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kazaa.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Golden Dog Lottery. I think I think that might have been it. Some sort of stuff like that. It was horrible. And it would like my mom would be like, "What are you watching?" And I'm like, "Mom, I'm not watching anything weird. This is just like a virus or something." And you couldn't click the damn dog from the taskbar. This is like Windows XP. It was horrible. I'm still like semi traumatized from this stuff. Okay. Anyway, in school, everybody had the Bluetooth on, right, to exchange the MP3 files and whatnot. And there were these phones that got really popular when I was in school. There were the Sony Ericsson Walkman phones.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back at it, I understand much better what was happening, how it's possible, right? And this is like pre-Android era, okay, like completely a long time ago. Though I'm not that old. I like to think I'm not that old yet. The phones were running on Java. I think they were running some sort of Java virtual machine. And you could download apps from it, and you could connect it via USB to your computer. It had like a whole Sony Ericsson suite and whatnot. And long story short is that I came across this forum, Pat, where they tell you, hey, do you want to add some custom themes on the phone? So I'm like, hell yeah, when I had a custom theme on my phone, mine had like a Ferrari like custom theme. Like my phone was like souped up type of thing, right? I don't even know if that's the right word. I hope I'm not saying anything crazy. So just moderate me, by the way, because my slang growing up was in Spanish. You know what I mean? Like I picked up this stuff as I'm an adult, and even my family sometimes I say things that they're like, I don't think that's what you're trying to say, but whatever. That's a different topic. I digress. Long story short is that I got into this forum that had a command and control C2. We're doing with Hacker Hermanos a series on C2s and red team infrastructure. We're going to be delving in the future into how to automate all that stuff. And we just released like about 10 videos on how to set them up manually for the complete beginner. Because I like to start things in a way that are useful to the audience, because all these things make sense to me already. I use them at work on the daily. I automate them at work. I write them as code, etc. So I want to make them useful for folks, right? Kind of bridge that way of all the research I had to do to come across how to do something, but present it in a way that they can, just click the video, start. I think you do a lot of the same in your channel also when you do these walkthroughs of how to set up the different VMware products and how to set up different network stacks. So I commend you for that labor. That's very needed work here. But going back to the thing of how I got into InfoSec, or my early startings, right? So I got a command and control that worked over Bluetooth. Let that sink in for a moment. Your Bluetooth is on. You have Discoverable on. I go on my phone. I open my command and control server. I request a connection from your phone. You don't know better. You're like 9/11. You click yes to everything. And I would go on class, and the user story, like they say, the experience was the following. I'm in class, requesting people connections to their phones from my Sony Ericsson Walkman phone, right? And this was an app. I'm trying to remember the extension of the app for the life of me. I can't remember, but it's whatever. I'll try to find it later. And this was in a Polish forum. So I was using Google Translate like on every line. I didn't know what the heck even C2 was. They wouldn't even call it a C2. It was like I can't remember, but it was a long time ago. Okay, Pat. And long story short is that they will the app will request the target phones for permissions. You click yes, and I have permission to read the file system of the phone. So all of your pictures, all of the music, all of the text messages, the contact list, and on top of that, you could send commands to have the target phone do things like ring, see the camera, microphone, record something and send it back to me. It was insane. Okay? In class, we're in the middle of math class. Everybody's super quiet. I'll make your phone ring. I could even turn off your phone. But after it was turned off, I couldn't do anything, right? Because, I don't have connection anymore. But it was insane. And I played with that thing for like 3 years, man. It was crazy. Like, only like my best friend or something knew that I had that. You know what I mean? So it was that type of thing. Was that curiosity, right? Was fostering very early on in my heart. I always wanted to know how to do this. What else can be done? I remember in the times of Windows 7 coming out, I would go into the same type of thing. Like, let me mod my Windows XP to look like Windows 7 because my computer was too old and it couldn't run Windows 7. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So
Yeah.
that type of thing. And fast forward, I say I'm very grateful that I didn't get into trouble because, as you know, uh, those things are funny to say now, but there's very real consequences that could occur had I gotten picked up in school and then call my parents and be like, hey, we're gonna have to take your kid out of this class because he's doing things he shouldn't be doing, right? And I'm telling you, Pat, it was merciless. Like even the teacher, like it was nobody. You get the idea. I don't need to go
Yeah.
into that detail, but um, so my family has always had a strong like emphasis on education. My mom, went to school, and I don't think my dad went to higher education. But long story short is that growing up, when I finished high school, I went to school just to please them, just to get them off my back. I'll pick an easy degree or something and just complete it and be done with it. But it never really made me feel like I'm interested in what I'm doing. To
Hmm.
give you a quick fast forward as to how things are now, I wake up early. I go to sleep late sometimes because I'm that interested in what's it going to be. Everybody comes across things in the workplace or at work. That's why they call it a job, where you don't feel like doing it. But at the same time, I feel extremely blessed that most of the times I don't even have that feeling.
Hmm.
I like what I'm doing, even if it's busting my back and tired, all that stuff. But whatever. And for like 2 or 3 years. Oh no, matter of fact, I skipped a whole period of my life. I don't know how I forgot that. When I turned 18, I moved to the U.S. I'm a born citizen, but I grew up abroad. I grew up between the Dominican Republic and Madrid in Spain. And at 18, I moved to the U.S., moved to New York to live with some family because of this was around the subprime crisis that happened before the mid 2000s, right?
Hmm.
Where like all the prices went crazy, inflation, and my family in Spain were going through a very very bad economic period. Like where they were like, hey, you need to go to the U.S. and figure it out because things are going to get really bad, and we cannot even send you to school, type of thing, right? I was not a brilliant student or anything in high school, so in Spain, education is free as long as you get good grades. Not my case. So they sent me here. They sent me to the States. I got here. I remember I had enough money to go buy an iPhone at Singular. I think it was AT&T
Yeah.
back in the day, right?
Yeah. Singlet.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. I got an iPhone, and 2 3 months go by. Things were difficult. I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I enlisted in the Marine Corps. They had me go through the ASVAB, like those exams for aptitude, and to see what things you can do essentially with what are you capable of them training you with,
Hmm.
and they put me on telecommunications, like ground comms. That was bringing telephony and network services. So your beautiful layer 2 switches, layer
Hmm.
3, and connecting them to another set of systems that were bringing connections via satellite. Okay, so long story short, Pat, is that put me into a path of technology.
Hmm.
I was in the Marines reserves, and after I got back from training, because they bring you back to your city, I enrolled in school, finished that degree that I wasn't interested in. For details, it's I got an undergrad in economics, and I'm like, I don't want to work as a bank teller or accountant or whatever people that have an economics degree do. Because unless you got like a PhD and you're putting out research and theories in economics, you're probably gonna do work some customer service, bro. Like that's what it is. And I still had to work customer service when I got into tech, but we'll get into that. But long story short is that I didn't have a passion or a direction that I was like, I don't even want to move forward toward this direction in life. And that's a very dangerous thing for a young man. I didn't get into any sort of trouble, but let's just say that I wasn't fulfilled or happy. Okay,
Hmm.
buddies back in the Marines made me aware of the CCNA, when I was growing up, also my parents at their workplace, there was this person who was the IT specialist, and he told me, "Hey, you're a smart kid. You should learn like networks and Linux." And I would just look at this guy. I'm like, Linux, that sounds difficult, and networks, that sounds boring. Like, who wants to do that? But that was always in the back of my head. Like, somebody told me that I could do this. Okay, got out of the training in the reserves, finished school. Things were difficult. Like I said, I wanted to find a job. I got even rejected from Macy's, my friend. Like, not very self-esteem building moment. Okay, let's just put it that way. No, I'm not meaning in a pejorative way to anybody that works in Macy's, but it wasn't something that instilled a lot of confidence in me. And I'm talking about Macy's like Fifth Avenue or something like in New York, where like they need bodies. So like imagine how incapable I had to have been at that moment. Okay, so God, like thinking back into that was rough, man. Anyway, so I went on like let me see how I can do with this IT stuff. I saw the typical like highest salaries by profession type of Google searches, right? And I always saw IT this, IT that, technology. I'm like, damn, I want to be in this technology shit. But I didn't have no degree in technology. I didn't have no knowledge other than my times tinkering around phones, modding Motorola phones. Do you remember the Motorola Razr phone?
Yeah.
Dude, I flashed that phone with custom ROMs, all sorts of stuff, and all the way to Android, because I was always tinkering with a computer or with a mobile phone, right? Just not really to the degree where I'm writing my own exploit or I'm like reversing a firmware. But I was always very good at researching it enough that if somebody else had done it and shared it online, I could reproduce it myself. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick, what you call this, intermission because something else I remember. When I was like, I grew up and I used to play Pokemon. Do you remember the Game Boy and all this stuff, right?
Yeah. I never really played video games, but yeah.
So that game, I had a thing called Game Shark. I'm sure it was very popular here in the US, but like back where I grew up, it wasn't. Like you could add cheat codes that you download online and it modified the game. So you change the game in such a way that you have God mode, infinite lives and things like that. And
Gotcha.
I would modify my Pokemons to have this impossible stats or get like really rare Pokemon, and I would sell them to people. I think that my brother just wrote on the comment the Argentinian because there was a kid that was my prime customer where I would sell him all of these like modified Pokemons, right? From modifying the video game. So none of that stuff is really like elite or super crazy like hacking, but it's modifying something to do something that it's not really meant to do by the vendor. Okay, if you think about it from that perspective, maybe I'm stretching it, but you get the idea. And I think that's definitely my brother that wrote that comment because he knows it was our neighbor. He was our neighbor. Anyway, long story short, back to New York. I'm an adult, need to pay bills, right? I got a job. They gave me a job at a help desk. At a help desk, that gave me a lot of exposure with it was like a network department's help desk. So it was like L1 of a network team in a school district. Pat, this was in New York, deep New York. I'm not going to because I don't want to offend anybody or come across as if I'm looking down on a specific area because I'm telling you, like I had very rough moments in my life, so. I feel blessed now. I don't feel like it's fair also to depict negatively somebody that's not in a good spot right now. But let me just say that the school district that I used to work for was so rough that seeing the police every day there was a common thing. It was a daily thing. You see cops in the school, and I'm talking about like a middle school is what's before high school, right? Where like
junior high school, junior high, yeah.
In one of those, and they tell you. Don't walk on the same sidewalk of the building because kids drop big books so that they fall on people. You get the idea, right?
Yeah.
So it was the kind of school district, right, in New York. And long story short is that there I learned a lot of I got to apply a lot of skills that I had gotten adjacent in the Marine Corps, like wiring cable, terminating Ethernet cable. Removing all wires from old like switch fabric that was deployed in the building to replace it with new one, coordinate with ISPs, things like that. So it got my hands very dirty on day to day on what being a network technician is.
Mm-hmm.
Still being ambitious and wanting to continue progressing, right? Because like I said, playing video games also gives you a mindset of I want to level up, I want to get to an objective, right? It gives you like an objective based like mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted something more. Let's just call it that. I wanted more, and I remember in the back of my head, you know what? Somebody said I could do this whole network thing. Somebody said I could do this like CCNA, Linux. What is all that stuff about?
Mm-hmm.
So I kept an eye on job boards and seeing what kind of jobs were around and what things they would ask for.
Mm-hmm.
It was a few years still working this like L1, L2, like help desk. I graduated help desk. I've done all sorts of help desk, just by the way, earlier in my career. And seeing moving from those jobs, I started studying the CCNT, the Cisco track for routing and switching, because everybody was swearing by that.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
The CCENT.
Yes, the Cisco
ICMD
certified,
1.
Exactly.
Yep.
You've been there.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. I have a special place. It's biased probably, but a special place in my heart for everybody that's studied those like 1,000 page books just to go sit an exam.
Yeah.
And then I got picked in a network engineer job, and I started seeing more away from the technician side of things, where you're just terminating cable or doing very repetitive work, to fixing more problems around TCP/IP stack and enterprise deployment of I need to design an address space so that the end users at the enterprise can be serviced and have all the machines working together, have a segmentation so that servers are not talking to workstations directly but can still provide the certain services. I learned what network address translation was, which weirdly enough ties into the whole thing that we're doing with Hacker Hermanos with C2 infrastructure and Red Team infrastructure, because it's services at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
Just because you're building a service for an offensive security function or offensive security operations doesn't mean that you don't have an application running on a network stack. It's all the same. And that's where, oh man, Pat, I'm about to get controversial here. I can already feel it. So here we go. Folks that want to get into IT or cybersecurity, folks that want to get into cybersecurity sometimes suffer from, you've seen the meme of the pen tester kid that is skipping a bunch of stairs, right?
Yeah.
And it's like the programming, operating systems, Linux, pen testing, or red teaming. Listen, that's beautiful. I'm with you. My heart goes out to you. That's why we're doing Hacker Hermanos, to help folks bridge that gap and understand concepts from first principles to here's how I can apply it and use it today.
Mm-hmm.
But what worked for me was going through all those levels for a little bit of, let me understand how wires are connected. Let me understand what the heck it is that I'm wiring.
Mm-hmm.
Let me understand how these things are servicing needs of a business. Because at the end of the day, my friend, you know this, a business paying you a paycheck is because you're doing something for them that is also generating them a paycheck, right? So
Absolutely.
that's something that this morning and throughout the day today, I had the raw feeling or the raw idea, but I hadn't quite thought about how I was going to articulate it, right? That it's like, if you want to get to your career in cyber or red teaming or blue teaming, I don't even care what it is. You need to understand what business value you're providing to your employer or to the company that you're going to work for. Let me put an example that's less abstract. If you want to work for a consultancy as a pen tester, not a consultancy, sorry. If you want to work for a company that has customers taking digital payments, like payment cards, that has to be PCI compliant, and you know that every year they need to get that pen test, but that they don't need you to go on and meet anything but the compliance requirements. you sure as hell need to know the compliance requirements, what is for them a good product. On the opposite side, if what you want to be is in a consultancy, consultancies make money from taking customers, finishing projects, delivering the report, move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's the model you need to learn to operate. And look at folks that are, and researching everything you can, and look at folks that are there where you want to be, so you can mimic or emulate what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody I've seen their GitHub, and seen them in not as much in social media, but their work, even as recently as last week, is this person that wrote, I think, I don't know if it was Empire or Powersploit. They go by Harmjoy. It's this William Schroeder guy, right? Funnily enough, I saw him face to face in the DEF CON week this year, and I've been seeing their work forever, man, at GitHub. That person went to a very good school for a computer science program. You can tell he's been grinding for a minute. He's put out research. He's put out tools. He's developed methodology that the whole industry follows. Do you really think, and this is not to say it's impossible, but do you really think that this person would have gone directly into cyber without all that background and all that work and all that investment in self-development that goes behind it? And
No.
I'm telling you this as someone that didn't go to school for computer science. You get what I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
Today, working in a red team, I believe that the value I'm providing to my employer has to do with also all that time that I spent at different positions where I was building a foundation in knowledge of technology and in knowledge of skills that today I can bring into a package that, mixed with experience, allow me to perform tasks that deliver them value.
Mm-hmm.
All that mouthful to say.
Mm-hmm.
With the infrastructure stuff and the automation stuff, and we'll get into this in subsequent series, because obviously we can spend a couple nights all together like doing it, right? Before you're doing an operation or you're going to attack this target, I think you were telling me about a pen test you might have done in the past few months, right? You need to set up an attacker machine. You need to set up the connections, how you're going to attack the environment, if you're going to do an assume breach model, or if you're going to phish a user. All this stuff has a prerequisite requirement of things that need to be... One second. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. You need to have all these things deployed and ready. That it's not just sitting on your computer in the morning, banging at your keyboard, slinging commands, and you're ready to attack. Right? That's where the specialization that I have now, the infrastructure portion, come into play. When I say automated, it's written all the servers, operating system that I need, the configuration, the tools, into a software project that I can just hit a few commands. And anybody in our audience that is familiar with Terraform might know how this works, right? It's what they call infrastructure as code. And I write these things into projects, and we'll release some of these projects with Hacker Hermanos. We're building all that content right now, and to teach you folks how to take advantage of that and put that out there, because I don't feel like that's something, or I haven't noticed that that's something that's very well taught out there or very common. A lot of folks have red team courses or penetration testing courses, but not really red team infrastructure, and that's what we want to do with Hacker Hermanos, like bring that knowledge in and make it affordable to folks, so it's not some esoteric weird stuff that nobody knows about. So long story short is, the value I believe I'm providing today is due to preparing everything that needs to happen before you're doing an operation and making that happen within 5-10 minutes. I can have you a scalable deployment of command and control servers, attacker machines, operational logging, redirectors. You familiar with redirectors, Pat?
No.
Fair enough. So I'll give you a quick rundown without going on a soapbox. So stop me if if it's like 2 hours past and I haven't shut up. So I'll try to be brief and concise. Okay, I promise. So the redirector is a machine that is forwarding traffic that your target, the malware that you have in the target, is sending without giving off to the defenders or even the logging stack in the target your true location, your true IP. So it's like, NAT, that you can It's similar. As a matter of fact, you can implement redirectors with NAT. That's what I was meaning earlier, right?
Oh, okay.
So I can have all of that infrastructure deployed in 15, 20 minutes from writing it as infrastructure as code. Whereas if you go and manually deploy an Apache server, configure it to proxy traffic, deploy a C2 server, configure it with, I don't know, Mythic, Covenant, whatever it is that you want to use, a Cobalt Strike if you have the license, that your employer is getting it, or you're crazy enough to pay all that yourself. And I can have that stuff spun up in like 15, 20 minutes. So now the team can come, do their engagement, as long as the other things that need to happen are in place, right? So all that to say, going back to the main idea here, the core idea for the whoever joined, might have joined in the middle of all that, is whatever position you want, whether it's red teaming, information security, penetration testing, analyst, whatever, you need to understand what business value those jobs bring to the employer. Not just, I have this stack of certifications because that's what Joe Smo on Reddit say to get, and everybody has them. CJ, great question about, is it virtual machines you're spinning up? In some cases, it is virtual machines. Some cases, it could be managed services that run containers. In some cases, it could be serverless functions. You can do redirectors with serverless functions. You can also do them with VMs that are running Apache as a reverse proxy. So the traffic comes in to the Apache server, and then the Apache server sends it to the C2 redirector. Okay. I'm going to put on the. I don't know if I can I write on the chat, Pat?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna put a link to our. I'm gonna do a what you call this cheeky. God, my English is failing me right now. Have mercy. Like a self shout out to our YouTube channel. Thanks so much. Thank you so much, Devin. I appreciate that. So on that YouTube channel, you'll see the concepts that I'm talking about with redirectors. There's many ways to set them up. And also, we're giving an example of what is a C2 server, what is a C2 server deployment, right? And how to set one up with Mythic, which is an open source project. You can download all this. Shameless plug. Thank you so much, Caspian X. I'll send you some stickers. You got to hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll send you some stickers. It's going to be a Google night. It's always a Google night, my friend. That's another thing about this field. It's never not a research time. So where was I going with this? What got me to where I am today, right, was having a solid understanding of IT fundamentals through the path of networking. That's what I would say is the most deciding factor, because that then allowed me to pivot into cloud security, penetration testing, and now red teaming. And now I am in this weird niche that I've seen a couple folks, very few folks, but I've seen a couple folks that are aware of the whole red team infrastructure needs. I'm going to paste another link. Sorry, Devin, I'm going to spam you a little bit, but I'm going to paste a link on the chat for folks so that they can read and get aware of what the infrastructure is. In our series in YouTube, in the concept overview video, I put a slide with a bunch of links and references to DEF CON talks, all sorts of stuff that speak about what this is. Okay, and so long story short is, find the business value that you want to align to, and you can be the CFO for all that matters, as long as you know very clear who you are in the place where you want to get paid as that.
No, wow, that was a lot. That was definitely a lot of information to digest. So you guys probably have to watch it a few times. I'm sure I'll probably rewatch this again for sure. So that's awesome. That whole journey, that whole avenue to where you are today, dude, that's sick. I don't have anything like that. Like, I think a lot of people know my story. I'm not a red teamer, but my story getting into even IT, I grew up a little similar to you, like I grew up very on a lower income, like I thought I was just going to be someone that worked in the union in New York, like a plumber, whatever, like, similar to what my family does. And that's what I thought was the norm, staying out of Rikers Island, go work, in a union, you know what I mean? So And if no one knows what Rikers Island is, it's a prison. But, you know, like, so then obviously like a friend of my uncle's like, oh, Pat, like you can work in IT. So similar to you, like that's for the smart, nerdy kids. You know what I mean? Like I'm from the streets of New York. I'm not working on the computers. And long and behold, like he told me to get a few certifications. And there I was. I was like, wow, this is actually really easy. You know, like the Windows stuff came super easy to me. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I went for my MCSE in 2003 server. And then my A plus, network plus, security plus, server plus, all the pluses. And so I was like, you know, like it was really intriguing to me because it's like, I always felt as though like getting these certifications was reinforcing a concept. It's like you go into uni, right? Like you went to college for 4 years for economics. It's like you're going to complete it, right? So it's not like there's no point of like going 4 years and never, you know, taking, you know, your exams to pass. And the same goes with me. I'm like, okay, like if I'm going to learn about VMware, if I'm going to learn about, you know, back then Citrix, XenApp, Zen Desktop, all this VDI infrastructure, it's like I'm going to go get my CCA, which is Cisco Citrix Certified Administrator, and then when I went into networking, same kind of concept, right? Like, you know, I did the CCENT, then the CCNA, ICND1, ICND2, and then went from my CCNP route switch, CCNP security, and then all the way to the, you know, CCDP and the CCIE, all the way, you know, those routes. And I thought
you work hard. That's a lot of CCs.
Yeah, I have a lot of CCs, I guess. Yeah, and I thought I was going to stay in this space forever, right? In that space, right? I was like, okay, like I'm networking. I know it. I can, you know, network security. That's the security I thought I was going to be in, right? Like firewalls, WAFs, you know, web application firewalls. That everything is cloud based now. IDS, IPS, using firepower because I was more of a Cisco guy, and ASAs or whatever, FTDs, FMCs or whatever. All these Cisco products, and lo and behold, like, you know, getting into cybersecurity. And, you know, if people don't know how I got into it, it was a little unique. I am a big sneaker guy, and I got my PayPal hacked when I was selling some Jordans on eBay. You know, I would buy Jordans, sit on them for like a month, and then resell them, you know? So if anyone's a sneakerhead, a lot of sneakers that would sell, and you know, the 11s, the patent leather 11s. So I would buy them, sit on them, and then flip them. And like this was, I was still an undergrad, and I had like $900 stolen from my PayPal. And that was like, whoa, what happened? You know what I mean? Like the Nigerian prince fucking got my money, you know? So
what's the story with that, man? Did they actually like scam you, Pat, personally?
No.
What happened?
Yeah. So I had Hotmail back then, and had a Hotmail account, and my password was super easy. Like even because I worked in IT, but I wasn't working in security. So my password was really easy, right? I look at I think about it now. It's like, damn, I'm a fucking moron. But, you know, like it is what it is. I learned. So they got into my email, I believe. And I don't know if they scam me by me clicking on a link and they harvest my credentials. Because this was way before like everything was going over TLS and HTTPS and, and it was a little, at least for me, at least back then, it was harder for me to spot it out because I was like, oh, whatever, it is what it is. So, and then I went to, there was no multi-factor authentication. There was none of that. Like if you got into my account, you can just transfer the money, And that's what happened. And then once that happened, I was studying for multimedia design. Because if a lot of people don't know, I'm a skateboard. I don't skate anymore. I'm getting too old. My knees are getting fragile. But
do you skateboard?
Yeah, I skated for 5 Borough. I skated. I have a video on my YouTube channel of me skating.
Check it out.
Yeah, I skated all the big spots. Brooklyn Banks, South Street Seaport, Flushing Meadow Park, where the Globe is in Flushing. And I skated with a lot of, guys.
I'm gonna have a Kenya moment. I'm gonna let you finish, but I need you to promise you're gonna teach me how to ollie. All right.
Yeah, I can teach you how to ollie.
For real? All right.
Yeah,
For real?
yeah.
For real?
Yeah, I can still ollie. I can still tray flip, hard flip. I can still do my flat ground
No,
tricks.
no. I know you can do even a hard flip. I'm just saying, will you teach me how to ollie? Which is a
Yeah,
different topic altogether.
ollieing's pretty easy, but yeah, we can. When I come back home, I'll link up with you.
Word.
But so yeah, so I got my PayPal hack, boom, 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 and then that's what intrigued me with cyber. And then I went to my counselor. I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know. And back, it wasn't called cybersecurity. It was called information security and assurance. So that's what my undergrad and graduate degree was in. And that's what really intrigued me. And back then there was no hack the box and try hack me's and, Vuln hub machines and all this other stuff. Like I started when it was backtrack R3 and, scanning your neighbor's Wi-Fi and whatever, hacking some Wi-Fi, thinking you're a cool guy. And I didn't come from a programming background, so I didn't know much about programming. But this goes into like what you were saying. You have to have.
By the way, backtrack 3, you're old, man.
Yeah, yeah, I am pretty old. So yeah, and then I just got into it, and I still get this question all the time, like on if it's LinkedIn, if it's Instagram. I don't really get hit up on Twitter, but those two places, do I need to know programming? I don't, for the newcomers or for the old OGs on my channel, like I don't know programming. I don't program shit. I don't know anything about programming, and I'm pretty successful in the field, right? So, in my opinion, you don't really like if you needed to know something, if you need to write a script or write a tool, why reinvent the wheel? You can go to GitHub and probably find that and just make some mods. That's just my opinion. Like if you have the knowledge of open up PyCharm and making some modification to a Python script and understand how to read it, I think that's good enough, at least for me. Even like I just was messing around with Noom and the programming language, like running some stuff to test. Yeah, Noom. NUM or NIM?
NIM.
NIM. Yeah, NIM. Because I was working on an assessment and I came across it, I think from Tyler. So I was like, oh, shit, this thing really bypasses Windows Defender. And I tested it on my machine. And I actually did this on an engagement. So thank you if you ever watch these videos. I appreciate that. That video was super informative.
Tyler Ransby, right? That folk that does OCP type content. Okay.
Yep. So I saw his. I'm like, is this shit really, legit? And I tried it myself. I was like, fuck, dude, that shit, didn't get caught. You know what I mean? So I was like, kudos, dude. So yeah, like I then I got into more when I first started blue teaming. Like I think we all do blue teaming without, not all, but like if you were in IT and you're on, an internal IT person, you sysadmin, network admin, whatever, you're doing some blue teaming to an extent, Now I think it's a little more divided, but back when I was doing it, like I was managing SCP, which is semantic endpoint protection, before there was EDRs and all these, live anomalies and all these different kinds of XDRs, NDRs, whatever, EDR.
I think I know what you mean, because like when you're doing sysadmin or network engineering, if they're asking you to configure it, but they're asking you to configure it securely, at least in theory, because, that doesn't mean that everything is a Swiss cheese, even today. But that's, I can certainly agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's, where was I going with that? Yeah. So like everyone's going to work in, even if that's why I always recommend, and the person that you met today, Devin, he's working for an MSP that my friend owns down here in South Florida. And he's touching all these things. And this kid just been in the field less than a year. He's learning Azure, he's learning Exchange, he's learning 365, Defender, and now he's building out a SOC. You
have to be quick to survive at an MSP because it's a lot of movement and some customers, no patience. So
exactly.
Kudos to you, Devin. Congratulations.
Yeah. So like it's just an awesome field overall. So I know we only have a couple more minutes I can go over. I just wanted to get more into some certs, right? So like red teaming, you have a few certifications. Like, all right, I guess before we get into certs, what is the difference between being a red teamer and a penetration tester, for those that don't know, or maybe use it interchangeably. What is the
Fair
difference?
enough. So let me let's start with an analogy. With
Mm-hmm.
the pen testing, it's more like in the software development lifecycle, you're banging at the door that was just produced, which is the software product, the application, the system, whatever it is. And you're banging at it with a hammer, you're shooting at it, flamethrower, everything that you can imagine that you can try to do within reason, because there's obviously, rules of engagement, and there's limitations of the things you can do. You shouldn't bring an app down. You should, that type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas red teaming is more, we have the door installed. I want you to go out from outside and look as much as you can and by look I mean behave as much as you can as somebody that's going to try and pick that door to break into the house. Now, if we go back to the technology portion, red teaming is with an objective, try to achieve a specific outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, you have the database of a hospital. Hospital hired you to be their red team. The red team engagement you'll do against that hospital is with the objective of, and I'm going to throw two example objectives. Encrypting the hospital systems to ask for a ransomware. We see this everywhere in the news. The other objective could be getting access to the systems, but instead of encrypting them and bringing them down, steal all the data of the patients and publishing it for profit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a red teamer, or as a professional, right, that's not in the right side of the law, right, like us folks that get paid to do this without actually taking some impact or negative actions, doing something illegal, you don't go and encrypt the whole hospital and bring it down and then call the CEO and be like, hey, you better pay me. This is my Bitcoin account. You know what I mean? You don't do that. You just take it to a point where, if we take it back to the analogy or the example, you have the knife to the neck here. Like, hey, I could press this button or do this or bring this here, and it's game over. Okay? With the pen testing, it's more, and in both you do a report, but let's. I'll start with the reporting side on red teaming, because I assume also in the audience they'll be more familiar with a pen test report. A red team report has a story that relates to the objectives or the mission that the campaign has. The campaign is the effort, the project in the red teaming space, right? Now, a campaign I did earlier this year was target this scope of systems with the objective of obtaining access to protected healthcare information. In the folks in the health space will know PHI data. That's, I believe, the highest classification of safeguarded data they have is patient records, like how much you weigh, height, what your doctor says about you. You have a fat old mole, you don't like, type of thing, right? That's confidential according to HIPAA laws, right? So, my mission as a red teamer, I was leading that operation, was to infiltrate the system, bypass any controls that I encountered that allowed me to get access to the PHI data, and then exfiltrate it, meaning take it out of the system to a system that I controlled. Now, back to the caveat that I was making of, you don't go and deploy ransomware, right? Because it's going to be a bad day for you. I would stop the assignment at the moment of, hey, I got access to the data. And I started from freaking Jimmy's account in IT, or the account manager for this customer. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, in the pen testing side, let's say that I'm a video game company. I'm releasing the Grand Theft Auto, and Grand Theft Auto takes payments for, because also. Let me not digress into something else, because my mind already going to all these things. Let's say that they ask you, hey, Pat, as our pen tester at Rockstar Games, we need you to make sure that these crazy criminals are not going to be able to abuse or take the credit cards of our other players, right? So what you go and do is everything you can to test, like a quality assurance test, but of security, the payment system. You'll see what happens if you put a credit card that was reported stolen that's been deactivated. You'll see what happens if you feed the credit card form a bunch of zeros and see if it returns or if it validates that the number are okay. You're going to try and see that if you put a command on that form, it's not going to actually run a command on the payment system, that type of thing. So it's like more like you're going down checklists. That does not mean that you're not creatively thinking and really, it's not like a checklist like you're a monkey and you go and you do all these things and then call it a day. It's not like that. But there are general areas of things like inputs, network connections. It really all depends on what kind of system it is, you know? There's a couple questions in the chat that I've been meaning to answer. Somebody asked about when we're putting when is the course coming out. So great question. Thanks for the interest, Flattered. We have the intention of publishing several courses in the future in red team infrastructure, penetration testing, but not penetration testing only on the whole, here's how you attack an app. Like the mission with Hacker Hermanos is make this affordable to you. And by affordable, not only in terms of price of it being cheap or whatever, but more in how can I, in the place that I am today, that I don't have, this 7 years of experience in OffSec or information security, I just want to get a job in this thing because I like it a lot. How can I take the steps to build the foundations that I need or teach myself how to learn these type of topics? Because we find oftentimes, Pat, my brother Rafael, the other hacker hermano, got his OSCP and CRTO exams very recently, right? This year. We want to teach things like how do you take notes effectively at scale? Like I have this certification that's going to take me X number of months to study. I have this other labs that are 400 hours to study because there's red team labs out there that it's like 400 hours of training, right? The Alter Security ones. I cannot say enough good things about Nikhil Mittal, about Altered Security, altersecurity.com. I take their courses. My brother does as well. Very useful stuff. And not only very useful stuff, you will find that they're incredibly friendly. Pat, you go to them with a problem, no questions asked, they help you. I'm not going to get into details as point fingers at all. That's not the intention here. But something I've encountered that I feel very, very sad about is going to a course provider or a training provider, asking them a question, and being met with sarcasm or disdain, or that they don't care about your question, or this question was already answered. My friend, I'm a paying customer here. You lived in New York. You're paying your money. You're getting something back. Not that the world is made to serve you, but this is an economy, right? And last time I checked, you're not forced to do that, and I'm not forced to pay you. So, you get the idea. But I'm gonna go into a rant that I'm gonna stop myself into right now. Okay. So that's not what you'll find with Alter Security. That's not what you will find with Hacker Hermanos. And I don't know how long we're going to be able to scale this. Like as we grow and stuff, how long I'll be able to answer every single comment and question that I get. But as humanly as I can, you come ask me a question, ask my brother a question, ask Kaylin a question, you're gonna get an answer. And we won't know everything. I don't know everything. Some things you could ask me, I don't know them. But I assure you, Pat, like that's my personal word that I'm going to help you research it and we're going to learn together.
No, and that's definitely something that I've learned from the time that we've been chit-chatting and everything that we're doing on the side as well. So it's like, that's definitely something that's appreciated. And I'm sure like once you throw that course out there, I'll be on that after all the other commitments that we got. But yeah, that's definitely something super. Are you going to, and I guess we can wrap it up after this. The first question is, are you going to like associate that training with a certification? And what red team? I don't really want to go to penetration because we got PMPT, we got OSCP, the penetration testing certifications. Like, I want this really to be aimed for red teaming. Like, And what red teaming certifications do you recommend someone, if they already went through like, Linux, OS, blah, 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 and AD and all this stuff, but they don't really know about C2s, right? Sliver, Cobalt Strike, and all these other, C2 frameworks. And yeah, like you said, like, Metasploit is a framework. It's super easy. And like those two questions, and we can wrap it up if there's anyone else that has any questions, and then we can just wrap it up after that.
Fair enough. So I'll be concise, I promise, because I know, we've been at this for a minute, and I gotta be also respectful of, everybody's time. But at the moment, our very next step with Hacker Hermanos is to release content to help build that foundational skill in the community for free. We're not asking for money. We're not selling you anything yet.
Mm-hmm.
On infrastructure, on automation, on the C2, all the infrastructure that you need from an offensive security perspective to do red team campaigns, to do your penetration tests, etc. Okay? CJ, check out our YouTube for What's a C2. We have a whole series and playlist on that. Now, the other question, Lazar, glad to see you here again, my friend. Hope you're doing great. Hey, if I have done physical pen testing, yes, I've done physical pen testing. I did a physical pen test last year that I got over 100 findings in one building, one floor. Okay? I'm just going to leave it at, without giving you details or say what company it was, I got my hands on the business license issued by the State Department. I texted the CEO, sent him a picture, be like, look what I got in my hands. And I also got the H-1B visa immigration documents, like copies of people's passports, visas, all sorts of stuff for folks that were hired by the company. HR, look what I got. That was physical pen testing. And how did I get in? With an under-the-door tool, which is literally just a wire in a 90-degree angle. You prop under the door, pull the door, and I'm in. Other notable finding there was a closet that had some janitor's supplies. And when you look up the chemicals, you can make a corrosive solution that could attack an employee with, right? So that's employee safety type of finding. The other question that you had was certifications. Sorry, I know you asked that question, Pat. I wanted to answer the questions that were on the chat.
No, take your time.
I appreciate that. So certifications that I recommend that teach C2 specifically. With all due respect, I don't recommend any at the moment that I've come across. That's not to say that they don't exist. I've done some certifications that teach that topic, but at this point, I don't feel comfortable recommending them because of the issues that I discussed earlier on the attitude and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not here to talk negatively about anybody. I wouldn't like anybody to be talking negatively about me, but that's, this is a free market, and I guess that I'm giving a customer review, so to speak. Certifications that I do recommend on the red team side are CRTP, CRTE, CRTM from the PACES. These are all alter security certifications. And man, there's hundreds of hours, 120 hours in one, 300 on the other, 450 on the other. So you have nearly 900 hours of training. And they're like $500, $300. They're very affordable, okay? You'll learn anything from Active Directory, privilege escalation, domain privilege escalation, persistence, trust attacks, bypasses to defenses, PowerShell, all sorts of stuff, okay? I recommend those certifications wholeheartedly. And you will be met with folks that have a kind demeanor and a commitment to your learning. That has been my experience. I've taken some of those certifications. I've taken boot camps, courses with Nikhil Mittal. And listen, man, our conversation earlier on not idolizing anybody, but I look up to Nikhil. Great person.
That's awesome. And that's good to know, because obviously with your experience, you have that, you can convey that and let people know what they expect, what they should expect. And, words, your word means a lot, right? Appreciate and awesome. So it's about 10 after already. And obviously, I want to be, kind of your time as well. If there's any last minute questions, I really, you can throw it in the chat really quick. Peter, currently in IT, but working towards the offensive security. How long does it take to usually take a pen tester to get into red teaming? All right, I'll let Robert answer that because I'm not a red teamer.
Hey, Peter, glad to see you. Hope you're enjoying the stickers. If you're the same Peter Navarro III that I'm thinking about. Pen testing is, as it is a niche, it is also a wide field, so to speak. You could be an application security pen tester and focus on APIs, web applications, etc. You can also be a network pen tester, focus more on Active Directory, etc. It all depends. Sorry, there's not a clean-cut 1-2 year studying. I believe most of us that like computer have to be to a baseline level of intelligence. I believe, however, that even if you're the type of person that's been told that you're dumb or not intelligent, I've been told all sorts of stuff bad. I've been told that my brain doesn't work for offensive security. Anyway, so don't listen to that type of stuff. I wanted to leave you with a message of encouragement. But unfortunately, it's kind of hard to answer that question directly because it is all related to the level of effort that you're willing to put in. Now, one thing that we also spoke about in the backstage, Pat, is being healthy. And I think even at the beginning of our stream today, right? Being healthy, go to the gym, lift some weights. If you cannot lift weights because you have an injury, I'm working through a shoulder injury. I told you, Pat, I think your back is messed up too, right?
Yeah.
Move, break a sweat. The chair is not going to go pay your medical bills when you're all messed up. So I'll leave it at that. But Peter, I'm glad to continue a discussion on that in a deep dive if you reach out to me on Discord or LinkedIn, but it's just not a clear-cut type of thing. If you go on the path of Active Directory and you get those certifications from Alter Security, I believe that by the time you have the second one, the CRTE, you have some skills that will help you, perform some operations in real life without much issue. There are some other adjacent skills that you want to have because here's another thing too, Pat, and I'll try to be concise here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Within red teaming, there are other specialties as well. Like I am on a small red team. Small, I mean 4 people. And I am leading the area for infrastructure. There's another colleague that works in infrastructure as well. So we have things like pipelines, automation, all the stuff that we're teaching through Hacker Hermanos. By the way, I haven't announced this anywhere, but my talk on C2s, and I'm going to talk about automation as well, got accepted to CactusCon in February in Mesa, Arizona. So I'm going to have to bribe you to show up there, Pat, and flex your muscles or something from the from the audience, all right, as support. But in my team also, besides infrastructure, the other specialization is malware development. Okay? Now, these are big disciplines, deep disciplines. So it all depends on the level of effort that you put in. I'm trying to answer the question, but unfortunately, I don't want to mislead you and tell you, a year and a half, you'll have it. It really all depends. Okay?
All right. So there's one more question from CJ. What's your methodology of black box? What is in the start? I'm not telling you anything else. How? Okay.
So on those non-knowledge tests, I'd say that obviously because you can't ask for the diagram or the data flow diagram of the application or what are the other than what's in the scope, what will help you not go down the wrong path is having a very good scope. My colleague Jeff Tomkiewicz, who I saw in the chat before, I'm not sure if he's still in the stream, and I are working on a scoping course that's happening early 2024. I'm not sure when we're going to have it ready, but we're doing our best to get started with that January and put in full throttle to that. The reason I say that the scoping thing needs to be good is scoping is this is your target. The better you understand what target you have in terms of what the target is not, the least time you'll spend spinning your wheels towards something that won't yield you results or even help you produce the deliverable that the customer wants, which is the specific application. Scoping is also important because you can find yourself in a situation, and this all depends on the type of pen test you're doing. If you're doing a black box pen test of a of an application and it's internal and you only have access to that, then that's less likely to happen. But if they tell you, hey, I want you to do a pen test of all of our network space, and they give you a /16 or a /20, Pat, there's damn many thousands of addresses in there, and you may end up targeting an address that doesn't even belong to the customer or the target, and get as much as a working exploit, and then you're in 0% still on your project for what they hire you to do. So you want to make sure that if you're going to a black box, your scope is on point.
Yeah, and I can add on to that and onto the how, right? Because networking and external stuff is pretty much what I enjoy. Having that whatever /16, or even if it's a /29 or whatever the subnet is, going on to like Aaron, go into your BGP, like where these IPs, who they belong to, because obviously you want to have that rules of engagement. Yeah, some people, and I've ran into this. I don't know if you have, but like, this is my IP one. I don't want to use real 1.2.3.4/29. Meanwhile, it was 1.2.4.4, the third octet, and then I'm looking and I'm scanning someone that, God forbid, if they wanted to get you sue you, or buku, lock you up, because obviously I didn't have authorization to scan those IPs. So obviously, do your due diligence. When you're doing your recon, obviously you can search for those IPs and who it belongs to, right? So there's a lot of sites out there. You can look. You can put an IP address in. You can see who owns that block of IPs to make sure it belongs to the client that you're assessing. So that's super critical.
That goes back to the whole staying out of Rikers Island.
Staying out of Rikers, dude. That's definitely key. But I think that would wrap it up. Like I said, if anyone has any questions, hit up Robert or hit up myself, or just put it in the comments below in either channel, because I think this is streaming on both channels. And I really am grateful. I'm super grateful for you, Robert, for everything on tonight, outside of here, and just being a buddy. And any last words for you?
Yeah, I'll say before don't have the chance to say it anymore. Check out the QR code that should be here. Check out our link tree. We have one link. You have all of our channels and whatnot. I've even featured this event for tonight, Pat. I'll be delighted to. I'm gonna self-invite myself to do this again with you. But also, I'm very grateful for your friendship. I'm very grateful that we got to connect. I'm very grateful that you reached out and that we connected so well. I think we had a good chat. Pat and I, folks, he might not want me to admit it there, but Pat and I spoke for like 4 hours the first day we we connected. It was like, yo, let's hang out for 15 minutes and like introduce, and then my girlfriend was like, are you gonna come up? Like, what are you doing, dude? Who are you speaking with?
Yeah,
Pat, I put you on the spot there. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, you should say, it's my other biddy.
All right. And then I'm like, yo, Pat, you have a space for me?
Exactly. Awesome. Yeah, man. And the feeling's mutual, dude. Like, after that night, I was like, oh, this dude's a real one. So, and just like you made the little comment, how I said, hey, how's it going? Just like the little subtle things. And I think those things go a long way. So
I appreciate you, man. Let's do this soon, please.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely chit chat. And if I go back home, we'll definitely link up, and you'll be back. And hopefully I'm on your channel and we can do this again.
Heck yeah.
All right. Peace out.
Have a good one, everybody.
And have a good one. Much love, kid.
Thank you, Pat.